Okay, everybody, let's take it from the top.
To all who come to this happy place, welcome.
Hi ho, true believers, and welcome back to D Plus Us Weekly, the show about shows exclusive to Disney Plus, episode by episode, week by week. We're talking about some of our favorite shows on Disney Plus. I'm one of your hosts, Griffin Tennell, Griffy D-Pad, and with me as always is the wonderful, the amazing Mr. McGeorge. It's over.
I'm so sorry, everyone.
It's over.
Well, that and we're late, but that's mostly because you and I have both been dying for the last week.
Yeah, we've been
We
dying
got to enjoy
here.
this beautiful piece of television in the meantime, so it's not all bad.
I mildly tortured Mitch because I wouldn't let him record yesterday because he was feeling really terrible.
Yesterday, this cold I had went from being a head cold to a chest cold, and my chest wanted to pop out like the alien things and in the alien movies, the xenomorph things. It was bad. It was a bad time.
So I believe we just refer to that thing as a chest burster, but that's beside the point. We're not talking about Alien. We're talking about X-Men 97.
We could talk about Alien. That's a Fox franchise.
I mean, yeah, but that gets its own episode. I just want to talk about
Oh,
X-Men.
yeah.
We've been waiting for way too long to talk about X-Men. Tolerance of Extinction, Part 3, the finale of Season 1 of X-Men 97. God damn, this show, man. Show is so good.
I want to say two things before we get into it. This is the best season finale we've had for any Marvel show on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
This is still not the strongest episode of the season and continues the trend of Disney Plus shows building and then falling kind of flat relative to other episodes towards the end.
I agree, but also it's hard to keep that in perspective when this was a
Oh,
three-parter.
no. I totally understand the rationale behind it. But
I think with it being a three-parter, we'll get into all of that, of course, folks. But with the rigmarole, first off, hey, thank you for listening. If you're listening to us, head on over to the YouTube channel where you can see our lovely, absolutely destroyed faces at the moment. Yeah, you'll figure that out at some point, Mitch.
I don't know how the kids do the heart thing.
Just do your way. Just do it the old way. Just do it our way.
Oh, fucking
There you go. Yeah. Check out our YouTube channel, youtube.com/@DPlus. That's where you can check out this show and our normal show where we talk about movies and everything related to Disney. New episode soon. We meant to record, and then we forgot to record.
yeah,
and then
we'll figure it out.
And then we got
We'll
sick.
get something in the books for this weekend. We'll get something out soon.
Something, hopefully.
Maybe just you and me doing a solo thing or a duo thing of.
One final piece of housekeeping. This is the last episode of X-Men 97 for now. So the weekly show is going to go on a little bit of a hiatus until the next show that we're going to talk about, which is
The Acolyte.
The Acolyte. Yes, we're going back to Star Wars. The next show to talk about will be unveiling some new branding for D Plus Us weekly as well.
And that's like what, a month away ish? It's like middle of June.
Give or take. Time's a flat circle.
Fair enough.
And everything is a lot. Yeah, new branding though coming for the weekly show that has been
Excited
awesome.
to show that off, yeah.
Yeah,
Griffin's done great work.
I have been hard at work, toiling in the mines of After Effects to make cool stuff, and I'm proud of it. So that's coming soon.
And I can confirm it's very cool.
Yeah, Mitch gets to see things that you all don't get to see because so much has gone on
Until
in
you
the
do,
cutting
and
room
that's
floor.
awesome, and we can all share in the cool stuff together.
Yeah, some things people don't see because I get rid of them. But that's beside the point. Let's talk about X-Men 97. Absolute cameo fest of an episode, but in a way that was great. There's two major storylines to wrap up Tolerance of Extinction. With it being, there's the combat with Bastion, and then there is the Magneto Mindscape.
The Magneto stuff.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was watching Spider-Man No Way Home just before this. So.
Yeah. I love what they did with the story in this episode. I would agree if we're looking at it as a single episode, not the strongest episode of the season, I think that is still, before anything is Remember It, yeah.
Remember, so apparently Marvel has submitted Remember It for Best Animated Show at the Emmys, and
It should.
It should be a major contender, hopefully.
Yeah, I really love this episode though. Like, yeah, there are cameos after cameos. We got references to. We saw Daredevil for the first time in this animation style.
We saw the modular Iron Man suit.
I also just want to shout out Daredevil though, because we saw Daredevil and then we immediately saw Daredevil getting his ass kicked. And
then getting his ass saved by Cloak and Dagger.
Cloak and Dagger,
which is cool.
I feel like anytime Marvel actually references Cloak and Dagger existing is a moment of just like elation and joy, because they for some reason like keep bringing these characters in and then forgetting they exist.
Yeah.
Look at animated shows. Look at the MCU. Look at
that free-form show that they tried to make after The Runaways was such a good show.
Yeah.
Is that MCU technically?
It was MCU adjacent.
I know, but it
was MCU in the same way that Runaways was in MCU, and
in the same way that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was MCU by the end of it.
It was intended, but we don't talk about it.
It did its own thing.
Yeah.
Same with the Netflix shows, right? They reference the MCU.
Really, all of it we can just blame Inhumans.
Yeah, it's fine.
But yeah, this show, everything. God, I think the big thing for me is just everything in the Mindscape. This episode is like everything between Charles and Magneto, because I think this has solidified.
Let's just, before we get there, full spoilers for everything here. We're going to probably speculate on future stuff. We might touch on comic book stuff, but we'll try not to spoil too much of that. But you have been warned.
Like this really solidifies an opinion of me, which is Professor Xavier is a bad person. Professor Xavier sucks.
There are no good people in this conflict, and I think this is, as someone who's been rewatching most of the X-Men films, I finished Dark Phoenix yesterday, and oh boy, is that a movie. The thing that this does more than the 90s X-Men show, more than any of the other animated shows, anything that the Fox universe did, it shows that there are no winners in this conflict, right? Everyone is fighting and scrounging for any little piece of what they can get, and they're having to do not great things to get it. And it shows here with Xavier and Magneto. It shows with everything we see from the president. Like, yeah, let's just fucking nuke all the mutants out of the sky. Like, the genocide. Like, it's fucked up. And it shows it here better than it has anywhere else in recorded medium. I know the comics have done a really great job.
So I think the interesting thing in this, with what you said there, is everyone here has to do good things and bad things. I don't think that's what makes people in this show good or bad. Stick with me. Like, definitively, I would tell you that Rogue, especially, is a good person. Rogue has done some massively messed up things in this storyline, not to mention
in the last episode,
but not to mention everything with Captain Marvel pre this show. In the original,
or even the stuff with Trask, right?
Yeah, like, but ultimately at the end of it, I would tell you she's still a good person. Gambit, I would tell you, is still a good person, even to some other degrees. You know, Jean Grey, Scott, Beast. Like, I would tell you that most of the X-Men are good people, but they have to make hard choices. They have to do bad things.
Yeah.
In the case of Charles Xavier, Charles more often than not makes the right choice. But I would tell you that ultimately Charles Xavier is not a good person.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Like, we're at the point where it's like Charles Xavier causes more harm and he does good in this show.
See that
I stand by that. I would tell you fully, Charles Xavier causes more harm in this show than he does good.
But if you look at the series of events that lead up to this show, a lot of the way that, and I think Scott has a great line, not in this episode, but in the episode prior, I believe, where he's looking at the portrait of the First Class and just saying, the one thing Xavier didn't teach me was the one thing he didn't teach me was how to be a father. And like, that just shows the flaws in some of these characters, but these characters aren't who they are without the influence of Charles Xavier.
See, I'm not disagreeing with that, but I still think in his direct actions in the show, Xavier does more harm than good. The big major point of this big major climax of this episode is the X-Men stepping away from how Charles is handling the situation and handling it in a way that they think he should have, the way he would have previously.
The only thing I challenge there, and I do agree for the most part, I do think his relationship with Eric, with Magneto, is so rooted in pain and suffering that the only way it was going to end was with more pain and more suffering, unfortunately, because knowing what he does of Magneto's past, he knows that he's not willingly going to reverse the damage he's done to the Earth, and that will destroy the planet. So, like, at the end of the day, he saves the fucking planet. Granted, some of his actions are what led them there, but still saves the fucking planet.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing that, like, he saved the planet, that he made the hard decisions that he had to make. Mm-hmm. I'm just saying, at the end of the day, I think Charles Xavier, through all of this, even when he's saving the world, is still coming at most of this from a fairly selfish onlook from a fairly, I'm trying to be trying to be logical. I'm trying to be this better person, but ultimately these choices are just not aligning with the things that I say that I am. But I mean, the part that really gets me, I think, is, you know, the end of last episode going into this episode of the manipulation in Magneto's mind. Some of it is, a lot of it is Magneto's own trauma that he is working through in this episode, because man, Magneto has a lot of it. But there is manipulation in there from Xavier to try to get his goal. Yeah. It isn't the Xavier we know in other mediums. One of the few things I think that the movies really got right, which is the teacher first. It is the
mentor.
The mentor. It is, no, I'm not going to force this. We're going to talk. And ultimately, I will get through to you via talking, not just through mind control. Which is how he solves this. All that said and done, I still would tell you that he probably made the right choices in this with where the world was at. I just don't necessarily think he's a good person at the end of the day.
No, and I think they're building towards him as a villain. I mean, we got hints of that. We both said, you know, they're going to set up Onslaught for the future, and that was very much not the case, because they kind of resolved things pretty neatly in this episode. But I still think the door is open there if they did want to go down that path, or just explore the idea of the Cerebro stuff that happens and how he kind of loses his marbles that way as well. Like, there are aspects of that character that are less than PG, I guess we can say, and I would love to see more exploration of that as this series continues.
And I think we will. I'm very interested to see what comes next with the show, especially with like where things are at with everyone being displaced through time. With I'm very curious to see what they're doing with Morphin Wolverine.
I was gonna say, you got your.
We got our full fucking confession from Morph, which, like, we've seen like the unrequited pining over Wolverine throughout the show. So good.
While I'm a little disappointed that they had to change their appearance to confess,
I loved it.
Understand. I would have loved to have seen them do it in their image, if that makes sense. Like, I understanding some of the turmoils and some of the self-doubt that comes into it, like that, I think plays well into the character of Morph. So I'm totally for it.
See, I love it because it is like that. It doesn't, for me, it doesn't feel like a regression of any of the, you know, litany of issues at the moment. For me, it very much feels like more taking the fact of, okay, where are we at this moment? Where is Wolverine at this moment? And being like, it's that line that Morph has where it's, she can't tell this to you, but I can.
But I will.
Because they do mean it. Like, Morph genuinely loves Wolverine.
You see that throughout the series.
To change it to a more accepted version of that so that they can get it across is a sentiment that that hits with a lot of queer people.
Yeah, there's layers to that for sure. That I don't know if they'll explore, but I would love to see some exploration of that. I know it can be challenging at what is ultimately an animated kids show, so we'll see.
Can we call this a kids show after this season?
Probably not. I feel like this was a kids show made for adults.
I feel like this was adult animation more than it was for children. at this point.
It's definitely more adult than the original X-Men 90 show was.
Like
That's for sure.
I would rank this as far, when I think about animated shows, I would put this in the category, for me at least, of adult animation. But adult animation,
I think there are
means something
aspects of
different
it that are for sure, but I don't know if the series as a whole, for me at least, falls under the.
like I put this
adult
around the same
animation
area
umbrella.
as like Invincible, where it is
Yeah,
appealing
I
to.
don't.
I can see the appeal to a younger audience. I think that at minimum it's teenager. At minimum.
Yeah, because like, what's it rated? It's PG, right? Or is it PG-13?
I don't know because
I feel
it's
PG.
streaming.
No, but sorry, it still gets rated for TV, right? Like, I'm just IMDb, I think, has it. Let me see if I can find it.
Yeah, I would definitely be curious to find out.
Yeah, you keep talking, I'll find it.
Well, yeah, we talked about that. Let's run through some of the cameos.
Okay, so it's actually rated TV 14. So
yeah.
it's rated like PG-13 equivalent.
Yeah, before we get into some like the big moments with the actual major X-Men, I do want to talk about some of the cameos here. We got that Spider-Man cameo in that first episode or last episode, but actually getting Peter, Mary Jane, and Flash. Okay, go for it.
Motherfucking Alpha Flight, baby. We got Puck. Let's go.
Alpha Flight with Psylocke for some reason.
With Psylocke for some reason. I'm down. Let's do it.
Yeah, but I think the big one for me is that the board at the end of the episode.
Yeah.
But I mean, the litany of cameos here. Yeah, Iron Man.
I mean,
Daredevil, Captain
Iron Man
America,
and Cap with the president, and we get
Black
that
Panther.
folio of the Magneto. Did you notice in the Magneto files the aliases?
Yeah, that they were Michael Fassbender and
Patrick Stewart and the original voice actor of Magneto in the X-Men 90 show.
not Patrick Stewart. Patrick Stewart was. You're thinking Ian McKellen. It was Ian McKellen.
Ian McKellen, yeah, my bad.
Patrick Stewart was Professor X.
Wrong character. Yeah.
But no,
I'm on so many cold medications right now.
one
I'm
of
lucky
the
to be upright.
one of the cooler cameos for me here was Black Panther, especially with it being T'Chaka.
T'Chaka,
And him
that's
actually
something I'd
being
love
a
to see
part
them
of
explore.
being like,
The
you can
world,
do
like,
this,
involved
but
with
you are
world
going
politics.
you can do this, but you are going to regret this. Like,
Yep.
this is a bad idea. But yeah, seeing some of those, seeing some things, but yeah, having Spider-Man with Mary Jane, he finally found her.
Are we going to gloss over the fact that Doctor Strange was using magic to perform surgery in Midtown?
We'll get there, but dude, you know the endings to Spider-Man the animated series as much as I do. He finally found her.
He found her, baby. And Bo DeMaio confirmed that on Twitter.
Yeah. Man, I was following his Twitter hard after this.
I mean,
episode.
the other major cameo and setting up the big bad for season 2. I don't know if you want to talk about it now or at the end. Like, we got Apocalypse.
Got Apocalypse,
and they're
at the
going
end
to
of
tell
all
the
this.
Apocalypse origin story for once, and it's going to be hopefully good because they didn't tell it in the animated show, and they sure shit didn't tell it in
as soon as they
Apocalypse.
landed in Egypt, it was the minute
Egypt.
I was like, "Oh,
Time
that's
travel
what we're
shenanigans.
doing next."
Yeah, we're doing the 3 different time periods, and do you want to get into it now, or do you want to cover some of the other stuff first?
Let's cover a little bit of the other stuff first before we really go speculation. But when we go into speculation, I want to talk about Fortress Board.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, let's talk about the fight before we go into it, because I think this was one of my favorites. There's one moment in particular for me, which is probably going to be the moment for most people, which is,
His name was Gambit.
that's one of them, yes. But for me,
Remember
it is Cyclops and Jean saying goodbye to Cable,
Oh, to Cable. Oh, in the diner.
the diner, and then to follow that with Cyclops' move of taking off his glasses, and you can see the tears as the octave things go.
Full blast.
Like, it was just so good. I think this show finally succeeded in me actually liking Cyclops.
Yes, but also they can still make him a terrible character. Like, they can still grow him into the terrible character you expect him to be based on his comic personality. I think that will be challenging to do in season 2, but depending on how long this show goes, they can definitely go down that rabbit hole.
5-season plan, right? That was the apparently what we were
I
hearing.
feel like they want more. They want this stuff out Fast and Furious with how well it's done for them.
Oh yeah, yeah. I love this fight. It was so good. But yeah, that moment of his name was Gambit. Remember it.
When
Her
she comes in
finally
with the
getting
tears
it.
coming down, the full, oh man.
Also, just in general, the way the X-Men they were fighting likely to the death right before this.
Oh yeah, Nightcrawler
And
is
we're
still
like-
the MVP of every fight scene.
Putting shit away, dude. The entire time, Nightcrawler is bamfing Bastion around. My heart is just in my throat.
When is he
because-
going to get impaled?
Yeah, I
on
was like,
something?
when is the impalement happening? That's what happens
It's
in the
gonna-
comics. Thank God it did not. I love this fight. I think this is one of my favorite fights of the season. I think the best moment in the fight, in all of the fights, is still that first episode. Or
See, I love this fight. It's hard to rank them because you've got the first episode with the energy claws. You've got 2 episodes ago with the Clawnado. You've got the
I just think nothing
the
beat-
Master Mold fight in Genosha.
I just
with
think
Rogue
nothing
and
will
Gambit
beat,
doing crazy flips and shit.
nothing's gonna beat for me. Storm walking around lightning, and it just smashing
was
into
that-
the
yeah,
sand,
the whole
crystallizing
opening-
it. Nothing's gonna beat
Well,
that.
and even the opening fight in that episode too, with the Friends of Humanity, right, with Cyclops doing his laser eye things and moving around the room and stuff, that was all really cool.
Yeah, the optic
there's
blast.
so much action jammed into these 10 episodes that I can't wait to see how they surprise us with season 2.
I really like though, despite the fight, it being a major fight, it's still the climactic moment of this is not necessarily them fighting, it's them stopping Asteroid M from crashing into the Earth.
Yeah,
Because, of course, the US government decided we don't like this, we're gonna bomb it.
which
Which
again
it's what
continues
they
to
do.
prove Magneto was right.
Yeah, Magneto was right. That is, I really do think that is the crux of this season. Is Magneto was right?
That's just the crux of X-Men, and no one wants to admit it. Or not that no one wants to admit it, but
No one at Marvel
that
does.
is the crux of the entire history of the X-Men, of people trying to prove Charles Xavier wrong, because Charles Xavier is inherently wrong. He
Yeah.
wants to see the good in humanity, but humanity is flawed. And humanity will always be flawed. Humanity will always fear change. And that, he's fighting a losing battle. He's always been fighting a losing battle. And that's probably part of going back to your earlier topic of he makes bad choices because ultimately the battle that he's fighting is a losing one.
Yeah, that's my thing for the thing that I struggle with Professor X is he holds hard and fast to this ideal that he has, which is something that I actually do really love about it. But it's so rigid that there is no room for the extremists that they're fighting. And I think we've seen Xavier kind of grow around that in comic book wise. I think that's how Krakoa happened. And if you've read Krakoa, you know that Professor X sucks in that series because he's terrible.
I mean, they think they're meeting the oldest mutant with Apocalypse. So, let me tell you something.
Apocalypse is
Mountain
just one
Dew
of...
Code Red? Yeah? Sorry. Continue.
No, we will stop for a Code Red. That is perfectly okay. But this is what you get from the video side, folks.
All right, we're all very sick, so Carmen had to treat herself to a Code Red.
I cannot blame her for that. Honestly, I kind of want to go to a corner store now and go buy one.
Sorry.
Hey, it's not your fault. I was going to go buy a soda tonight anyways. Yeah, I think there's so much great about this episode. I'm trying. I have a synopsis up next to me and trying to think if there's any other major points to hit here, other than the ending, which is them being blipped into something. We don't know
Something pulls them into multiple timelines.
Which I'm curious what pulls them. I have no idea what pulled them.
I have a theory.
So do I, but
I don't know. I mean, my theory is Rachel.
Rachel could be interesting. I would really love it. Especially with them using Mother Ascani.
Well, that's why I'm making that connection there and thinking that might be the catalyst to this. It's something big. and I'm very curious to see what it ends up being.
It makes me the only thing that makes me curious on this is with time travel specifically, this could be their excuse to pull the X-Men 97 into the greater Marvel multiverse. And they could do Kang
what's
bullshit.
interesting about that?
But I hope they don't.
What's interesting about that, if you look at Disney Plus and you look at the Phase 4 MCU timeline, X-Men 97's in there.
Okay, let's go ahead and add X-Men 97.
Whether I'm reading through the tea leaves or what, but maybe...
In that case, let's go ahead and add X-Men 97 to MCU rankings. Number 1. Okay, there we go. Perfect. Okay, it's up there for me. It's definitely top 10.
Number 2 on mine.
I mean, my number 1 is something stupid, probably. So
mine's Endgame because I cried in the theater multiple times. Like it could not be Endgame.
I hate to say it, but
it might be 3. I might have it below Winter Soldier. I love Winter
Endgame
Soldier.
is still number 6 for me. So
we gotta do an episode where we just go through our rankings because I think that'd be fun.
See, the two that I actually have to finish my ranking. So.
Exactly.
Fine, I'll go back to watching shows.
Let's talk about the ending.
Let's talk about the ending. Yeah.
So
the X-Men are split up. So
presuming 3 groups of mutants.
Well, yeah, there's 3 we'll call them teams for the sake of ease. But it's past, present, future.
Yeah, and
I think we started the future
first.
first.
That Jubilee, Wolverine, and Morph ended up in the present.
Yeah. Well, so we know Jubilee.
We didn't see in the present.
We know Jubilee. We know that Jubilee, Roberto, I guess officially going by Sunspot now. So cool.
Yeah.
Wolverine and Morph are all in present time because they were separated from the fight.
Right. Oh, they were already on the ground, right?
Yeah, Roberto and Jubilee were. Morph and Wolverine were still on the asteroid because they were in.
So who knows? And then Forge
I would tell you that they are
ground.
probably. I would tell you that Wolverine and Morph are probably caught somewhere.
I hope they're in the present, and if they're not in the present, I hope they're in feudal Japan.
I hope they're in the future.
I hope they're in feudal.
Okay,
so the future could be interesting because that's a way to quickly give Wolverine his adamantium back. Because in the comics, it was Apocalypse that gave him the adamantium back. So
I just want to see Wolverine and young Nathan Summers.
Yeah, that would be interesting too. So I want to talk a little bit about the present because for the first time this series, we got a mid-credits teaser.
Oh my god, yeah, right? I feel like there's 2 major things to talk about with the present. There's the board and then there's the teaser with fucking Apocalypse.
All right, so we can talk about the board first.
Well, let's talk about Apocalypse, man, because that was such a crazy
His name
moment.
is Death, remember it, mon ami. We're getting Gambit as one of the Horsemen of Apocalypse.
Oh, absolutely, which makes me wonder who will the other horsemen be?
That's a good question.
Well, and even more interesting, will they bring Angel back into the story after everything?
I hope so.
After his whole storyline of going crazy trying to kill Apocalypse. I hope so. I hope he's one of the people.
Or they try to bring him in and he's living like a monk style life and never wants to talk about it again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I'm wondering though if, let's assume Morph and Wolverine are in the present. I wonder if Wolverine as a Horseman of Apocalypse is how he gets his adamantium back.
Maybe. I'm trying to bring up. Give me just a second here. Forge's board to see what it says about specifically Wolverine and Morph.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they are missing, presumed dead. They are considered missing, presumed dead on the board. So it's likely
and
that
Jubilee and Sunspot aren't even on the board.
Here's the thing: we see half of it. No, Jubilee and Sunspot are on the board, but they are too high up for me to see what it says.
Tell.
The people that we have that on the board that we can tell are Professor X, missing, presumed dead. Scarlet Witch, who is off-world. Interesting. Colossus, missing, presumed dead Morph, missing, presumed dead Rogue. Oh, interesting. Dust, Archangel, missing, presumed dead.
Mm.
Magic, who has nothing. Iceman, Havoc.
Which I guess means she's not in limbo doing Madeline Pryor things, which is unfortunate.
Yeah. Well, we know that Magic already has her demon form, so.
Oh no, I know, but I meant more so like I'd love to see that storyline explored a bit. But we'll see what happens.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is she can be going back and forth. But here's what
Sure.
give me like 3 more of these because I think we're about to really get into one of the really interesting ones here. Cable is considered AWOL.
AWOL, yeah.
Exodus is on here for some reason, which is great. Quicksilver is also off-world, which makes me really wonder where those two were. Emma Frost, totally fine on here. And it could finally happen, Mitch. Shadowcat.
You're saying there's a chance?
If there's a chance that we get Kitty Pryde. Also, did I say Dust? I think I forgot to mention Dust. Dust is also on here.
You did mention
because Dust is also an awesome X-Men. But like, I'm very interested to see whatever this team that Forge is going to create to find the X-Men will be.
Mm-hmm. I mean, presumably Bishop, given how the episode ends.
Yeah. Presumably
One place to
Bishop.
start.
Presumably Jubilee and Roberto.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? I bet you that Scarlet Witch and Pietro are, they're probably off on Adelon. They're probably up with the Inhumans.
I was thinking that, or maybe they had the other theory I had was maybe they reformed the nation of Genosha in their father's name, or Asteroid M.
Yeah,
maybe more likely Asteroid M with the off-world comment.
Yeah, but Asteroid M was entirely blipped.
No, I know, but I'm thinking maybe they just made a new one. Maybe with the help of Polaris. But with Polaris not being mentioned and Havoc that's kind of where I go with the Horsemen.
So there is one that I can't
I'm thinking your Horsemen end up being Gambit, Wolverine, Polaris, and insert fourth mutant here.
I think it's Archangel.
Maybe Psylocke? Maybe they introduce Sunfire?
I mean, I would love for them to do Psylocke. I think it's Archangel.
Yeah.
The
problem with Archangel is he was Death. And we're bringing Gambit back as Death, whereas Polaris as a Horseman of Apocalypse was Pestilence.
Yeah, true. We could get Wolverine. I mean,
Wolverine was also Death. I mean, they could make it work as War. I can see that.
Who were I know X-Men Evolution had a really interesting 4 Horsemen
lineup.
Yeah. Because it was Storm, Mystique. Storm was Famine. Mystique was Pestilence. Magneto was War. And Xavier was Death.
So that's similar to what they did in X-Men Apocalypse, where it was Storm, Magneto, Psylocke, and Archangel.
Yeah. So I think I don't know if we'll get any previously established 4 Horsemen, like these are our 4.
They'll figure something.
But we're going to get something real freaking cool.
Yeah. I do think Wolverine and Gambit, Gambit's a lock. I do think Wolverine as War could work, and that's how he gets his adamantium back.
Yeah.
And I just want to see the Psylocke Pestilence suit.
Oh, here we go.
Because it's real dope. So, that's why I'm pushing for that, but otherwise, who knows?
Okay, so I finally got a good look at this board. Jubilee and Sunspot are considered AWOL.
So they're off with Cable trying to figure things out. So maybe the Cable faction and the Bishop faction come together to try to do the time travel-y shenanigans to find everyone.
Mm-hmm. Man, I really hope that they give Cable his neck back in that costume. I realize that's what was bugging me, for what it's worth, folks.
I know.
Yeah, I haven't said it on the podcast, though. I just texted it to you. And I realized it only because I was playing Marvel vs. Capcom. And, that's the only difference. His suit is almost exactly the same as the Marvel vs. Capcom one. The only difference is the neckline.
He doesn't have the V-neck.
It's the turtleneck. And I think that looks way better on Cable. But
the V-neck is a weird look for the 90s. The turtleneck is definitely more era appropriate. But, let them make the creative decisions they want. If those are the things that we're fucking nitpicking here.
Of course we're nitpicking. We're talking episode by episode.
I know. I'm just giving you shit.
Yeah, I'm interested to see that stuff. Honestly, as far as future stuff goes, I think the past stuff is the least interesting to me, only because we kind of sort of know Apocalypse's backstory
Destiny.
if you've watched literally anything X-Men in the last decade, 2 decades.
I'm curious to see this team's interpretation of it, because they're taking a character that was well established in the 90s show and having to add that backstory. It feels to me a lot like looking at a movie like Endgame and how it added context to a movie people generally didn't enjoy, like Thor.
You got this.
The Dark World.
There you go.
Hey, that was way more challenging than it needed to be. I do expect, because like the 90s Apocalypse is like, oh, this is really great. Oh, this is really corny. Oh, this is super cheesy. Why are they doing this? It had layers, and most of them stunk. I do think adding this additional context from this team specifically could do a lot to add that sense of dread that you need when you're introducing a villain like Apocalypse that I never got when I was rewatching the 90s show, which again was more targeted at kids. So I understand that, but I think the context here is going to do a lot to add to
Apocalypse
the impending sense of dread, especially getting to see in the future what Apocalypse has done in that timeline.
I can't wait to see things. I think the future and the present are the most interesting to me, just because they are the most unique portions of this storyline going forward. But I'm so excited to see what comes next, man. I hate that the
future one
over.
is kind of like the future one draws parallels. There was this short run where Scott and Jean get pulled into the future and put into bodies that are equivalent to theirs. Like, it's not their bodies pulled into the future like it is here, but it's like their minds are pulled through time or whatever, and they get a chance to raise Nathan in the future. So I'm very interested to explore that and explore that relationship between Jean and young Nathan specifically, since Jean isn't his mother. Well, again, that's a weird gray area too, because like this show's done a great job of exploring what it means to be a parent and exploring what love means and exploring what memories mean. Like, especially with the Jean, Madeline, Cable stuff, it's been really, really, really touching to follow this thread through. And I'm very curious to see how they build on that with Jean and Nathan in the future storyline.
Yeah, I can't wait for the future, Mitch, but we don't know when season 2 is coming. Now we have to sit.
Honestly, so the voice actor for Rogue said that she just wrapped additional ADR sessions for season 2. So assuming there were some rewrites from the original plan, especially with the change in the writer's room, it'll be interesting to see how quickly they got to turn around. Because if they've already been working on the animation and they're just adding ADR to certain scenes,
I still think we're going to be waiting a little while.
I would taco bet you, and if we want to put this in the recording, we can, or we can taco bet it outside of the recording.
Throw the taco bet out.
All right, the taco bet on this one. I think X-Men 97 season 2 releases winter 2025.
Oh, interesting, because I would have said it would have come earlier than that.
Oh, okay. I think we see it before the end of next year.
Yeah, I think we see it before. Yeah, I would agree with that.
I feel like they're going to try and. I feel like they're going to try to rush it, and I worry about the quality if they're going to rush it. But at the same time, if they've been working on it since before season 1 wrapped, you got to expect it's pretty far along.
I was going to say, I think they're going to try to hit spring of next year. I think they're going to rush it.
I think summer at the earliest, because we already know that the window for Daredevil is March.
True.
So I feel like that they'll do Marvel, then they'll put Disney or Star Wars in there, and then do Marvel again in the summer.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's also
maybe they try to hit the same timeline as this, of like put it out in like as soon as Daredevil's done.
Well,
like,
there's also a little show that is the most watched show on Disney Plus that they've got in the pipeline as well at the moment. So,
which is
Percy motherfucking Jackson.
And it's not it was the most watched show so far this year.
This year, yeah.
Mando season 1 still eats its breakfast.
Yeah, I was talking about this year. Just. Yeah. Anyways, to wrap up the conversation on X-Men, we talked about it being kids or animation. I think this is one of my favorite animated shows ever. I think it ranks up there. Like, as far as adult animation, there's a couple shows that I would probably put above it. You know, Arcane is something that's really special to me.
I should watch that still.
You really, really should. Like, we've got a
I
couple of
wanna
stuff
watch
there.
Edge
Like,
Runners, too.
The Legend of Vox Machina is something that's very special to me. Like, we have our stuff there, but like when you think about it,
Invincible, I put up there with this.
even putting it outside of adult animation, even when it comes to stuff that's more traditionally kids, there's only a couple of shows that I would put above this. She-Ra, Gravity Falls, Owl House.
Voltron Legendary Defender was really good.
Like, I do think that this is very top tier, one of the best animated shows out there. If for some reason I think it's done
the best job out of most, like, just looking at superhero shows. I think this has done the best job of translating the feel of comic book action into screen media in a way that I don't think we've seen it in games. I don't think
this is the
maybe
highest
the Spider-Man
Pantheon
games, but I don't think we've ever seen anything like this animated in ever. Like,
I would tell you that
pretty close with some of the MCU stuff, but like
the pantheon of Marvel animated shows for me now is like X-Men '97, Avengers, Earth's Mightiest Heroes, and Spectacular Spider-Man. Like,
and then everything else.
Everything else does not matter because those three are so amazing.
Yeah, those are the goats.
Like the only superhero show I would put up there in a similar regard to X-Men '97, and it's only because it is so beloved and so long and so important to all other superhero animation, is Batman the Animated Series.
Yeah, that I think the top 5 for me is the 4 you've already said and the '90s Spider-Man show.
Yeah. Oh, I would throw Young Justice up there too, but I love Young Justice.
Oh yeah, sure, I forgot about that.
Okay, that's another podcast.
Like Justice
that's
League,
a podcast.
Justice League Unlimited. They're both really good too. Like there's so much out there, but like
podcast soon talking only about superhero animation.
Like I don't think like I think recency bias is playing a part of how high we are on this show, and maybe on rewatches it won't feel as important as some of those other shows, but it's still a damn good ride.
Give me a second here. I'm going to go into our shows we need to do, and I'm putting down like show just about superhero animation because there are so many good ones. Okay, there we go. All that said and done, we have to wait a while for the next season, but we will absolutely be here the minute that episode drops. Until then, Mitch, where can people keep up with us?
D+us on YouTube, Instagram, X. I should probably start using those more, and I say that every episode, and then I don't because I'm lazy.
Yeah, we're sick.
Maybe
right
I
now.
will.
We get a pass. Yeah, go check us out there. Go check out our other stuff. Go check out our other show. We will be back with the weekly show with the new stuff for the Acolyte. But until then, folks, have a magical day.
Excelsior.